Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Live Your Life. Today's podcast is going to be a little different than what we planned. I planned on doing an interview with my mother regarding her mother, my grandmother, who is no longer with us, but she is a big role in our lives, and just the role she played as a strong black woman who grew up in the Jim Crow South. But as finals came around and everything, and my mother is a doula, she got busy with a few births. So I'm going to be doing a podcast by myself, just talking about my grandmother's story and kind of what it means to me. And yeah, so my grandmother is no longer with us, but she grew up in Alabama, specifically Anniston, Alabama, which is, it was a smaller town at the time, predominantly black, mainly working class, and, that's where she grew up, and she came from a family of 9, and, obviously during this time, it was the Jim Crow era in the Deep South. She was born in the mid-30s, 1930s, so we can imagine what was happening at the time. Opportunities for just not even black women, black Americans were just limited and constantly challenged, and there weren't many opportunities for them. But somehow she still attended college, became a successful seamstress, created a business, raised a family, everything. So, I had a lot of stories. She told me a lot of stories growing up. I grew up very close to her. She was honestly my best friend up until she passed. And she told me a lot of stories about living in the Jim Crow South under segregation. And even though she came from a predominantly black town, when they would go somewhere else, where segregation and Jim Crow laws were very apparent, it would kind of be a shock to her because she wasn't near that most of the time, and the treatment that she got from white people was just, every day was just crazy. I mean, the stories she would tell me that she dealt with when she was just 5 years old, going to the store, as a little girl. But, growing up and hearing those stories from her and just kind of seeing how she carried herself really shaped me today, and still does, and probably will for the rest of my life. And I'll probably carry that on to my children as well. One of the most inspiring parts of her story, I think, is going back to that she was able to go to college, and, finish college and get a degree, when many black women weren't even given the opportunity to pursue higher education, let alone even finish high school. And so I just think, about how much courage and discipline and sacrifice that probably took from her, especially, again, coming from a family of 9. I could just only imagine how difficult that was for her. And I think I just carry that with myself in my education now. I just always think of, regardless of how I feel with, I'm a little burnt out or something, I always think of, my grandmother would, oh my God, she would be ecstatic to see me graduating right now, and even going further and pursuing law, or, a master's or a doctorate. I just want to be able to go as far as I can go as a black woman and get as many degrees as I can, because my grandmother wasn't even given the opportunities that I'm given now, so I feel that it's only right for me to take every opportunity that I have presented to me. And, after college, as I stated, my grandmother became a seamstress. That was her main job. She made my mother's wedding dress. She was the town seamstress, She made dresses for everybody. She was also an amazing cook. She passed down many of her recipes to me. I make her bread for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and my mom will make her mac and cheese or her greens, and it's just a staple for every holiday. Everyone's like, you better make grandma's bread, since I've been away from school. But yeah, she eventually became a business owner, which again, incredible achievement for a black woman at the time, during Jim Crow. And not only did she own the business, she managed the finances, which again just shows how her education came into play. It wasn't just, just a degree. She actually used it. And, she had a reputation in the town, for having good business, good work, and just being a great person. And she did all of this while creating and building a family, and providing and being a great mother. And my grandpa was in the Navy, so you can just imagine doing all this while he was also away. And another thing that stands out to me is just whenever she would talk about these situations, it would never seem sad or hard for her. It almost seemed like she was proud to talk about her hardships she went through and her achievements. And I think that is so admirable, because it just showed how she carried herself and how she didn't let the way that the world viewed her, growing up in the time that she grew up, shape the way that she viewed the world or how she viewed people, because she treated people with the utmost respect, even people who didn't deserve it. And I think I really wanted to share her story and part of her upbringing, because I think it's important to tell stories like hers, because so many people have someone like her in their family, and yet their stories are never shared. And I think it's important to share the stories of these trailblazers almost, who shaped history for us, who the fight and the pain and the suffering that women like my grandmother went through every day just because of the color of their skin is why my mother and I and other women like us are able to become educators and work in law and become mothers and caretakers and do all these other jobs that aren't just being at home and cooking and cleaning. And I think to just wrap up this episode, I don't want to go on too long because I can probably talk about her forever. She is my idol. She's everything. But when I reflect on her life, I just really feel so much pride and honestly gratitude that I was able to live 16 years of my life with her as a mentor and my best friend. And I just have so much pride whenever I talk about her and saying that she is my grandmother. Betty Jean Darby is my grandmother, and I am proud to, continue on her legacy. And I think it's my responsibility to share her story because it deserves to be remembered and shared. And her journey that she went through in the Jim Crow South needs to be acknowledged as a big achievement, because not only did she prove others wrong in the time, she showed herself and her family and me and her generations to come in our family that it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. It doesn't matter who tells you can't do what, or who tells you don't look right. You can still do what you put your mind to, as long as you don't let society limit you or do what society deems as designed for you. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed me just kind of going on a little rant, talk about my grandmother. I really think she is an amazing woman, and I am very lucky that I am able to share her story with you guys today. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a good day.